Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Yao Graham. Dr. Yao Graham.
Yao.
Yao Graham. Actually, what is his name? Kosi corrected me on that. So thank you very much for your time. Can you share your impressions about the conference so far with us?
I will focus my impressions on the two sessions that I participated fully in. Clearly, there's a lot of interest. I think it's an important event, but it's also clear that, it's very packed and many issues have been put on the agenda. And the challenge, as always with these things, is how do we go forward, with ideas coming out? How do policymakers take something out of it? How do activists take something out of it? How do researchers and academics take something out of it? So that this is seen, when we come to look back, as a critical building block in a process rather than an end in itself.
We keep talking about the Africa we need, where disparities are low, if not removed. How do we get there, the Africa we need? What will be required to drive us there?
I think the theme of the conference also includes the phrase structural transformation. And the Africa we want, the Africa we need, is an Africa which has structural transformation with equity. Because at the moment, we have a certain kind of structural transformation taking place, where the role of the agricultural sector is decreasing, but productivity is not going up. The service sector is growing, but it's not creating quality jobs. That's not the kind of structural transformation we need. Because in fact, that's that structural transformation which is unfolding. It's a structural transformation which is worsening inequality. So we need a structural transformation which takes equity and equality as a defining characteristics, which therefore informs the selection of policy. And I think this has been raised in a number of the panels. And critically also, therefore, how the state is utilized, the culture of institutions, and ultimately how power is reorganized so that those who have a vested interest in a society without inequality, a vested interest in ending inequality, have a stronger and stronger voice in the choices which are made, that their agency as citizens become a greater part of building an accountable democratic culture.
We also know that inequality is embedded in the MDGs, and now we are talking about post-2015 development agenda. How will that new agenda take into account the discourse on inequality?
The MDGs were very much an ameliorative framework, dealing with symptoms. And in all the discussions about post-2015, you can see that in trying to combine environmental issues with social issues, with economic issues, with political issues, and also the question of structural transformation is a much more holistic agenda. And if we learn anything from the MDG's experience, even as they solved some symptomatic problems, they did not deal fundamentally with the causes, which then generated those symptoms. And hopefully, in my expectation, any agenda beyond the MDGs must be interested in dealing with the fundamental drivers of inequality rather than creating safety nets to catch those who are affected, by the effects of policies which, in their own logic, are the causes of inequality.
My final question is on the role of civil society organizations like Third World Network for Africa in building that structural transformation that we desire. What role do you think is there for civil society organizations like yours?
I think the first point really is that civil society organizations define very broadly to include, social movements, to include trade unions, to include NGOs. All of these ones have a role in promotion of a more active citizenship culture, where citizens feel and believe that they have to take charge of the process of how choices about development are made. help citizens develop the confidence to assert themselves, but also help citizens organize themselves and also help citizens develop their awareness, improve knowledge and consciousness about issues, which strengthens their basis for their intervention. Now, if you look at the range of civil society organizations, they all work with different sets of issues or focus on particular issues. The totality of all these engagements are important for the kind of broad social alliance within society, state-society relations, which will be required for the development, implementation, and realization of an agenda aimed at ending inequalities in the context of structural transformation with equity.
Dr. Yao Graham, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Jomo.